kind of wrap up into the final question that we usually ask every guest. So for us, like we started beyond baseball because we want to show the human side of the players behind the numbers and the performance on the field, but we also wanted to provide a resource, and you've touched on a lot of this already, but to future athletes. So if you had that like one piece of advice for a player trying to find his identity at a young age, out of high school, going right into the pros, what would that one piece of advice be?
Yeah, the one mistake, I'll say it this way, the one mistake I see high school athletes and even college athletes at times is operating out of fear. There's just a commonality with every kid, and it shows in a bunch of different ways, right? It doesn't all show the same. But I would say come in wherever you go, come in with a learning mind, right? With an ability to say, hey, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to seek and trust people around me to be able to help those answers, because not everybody's blessed with a Dante Bichette or Matt Holliday as a dad, right?
Yeah.
But there are plenty of really good men that can help you. It's just that as an 18-year-old, you're scared to lose what you've had. And so you're unwilling to say, hey, listen, I can't control to a certain extent me making it to the big leagues, but I can learn as much as I can from the people who have experienced a lot to help me get there. And that was, to me, is such a huge missing piece in today's culture. Is kids are like, there's so much access to knowledge that there's like, I know what I need to do. I don't need you to tell me what to do, and I'll get there. And then before they know it, they're failed out of the game and without a job and no idea where to go, right?
Yeah.
So learning from anyone. It could be a front office guy. It could be an analytics guy, right? It could be someone who played in the big leagues for 20 years. Every single one of those people have something to offer. You don't have to take on everything they say, but learning from what they're saying makes you a better ball player and a better human, because at the end of the day, you're only playing this game for a little bit. And that transition, I learned so much from all these different people, from the marketing department, from analytics people, from the clubbies. Like, they all have something to offer and they have value in life, and you can learn something from them. And I think if you can take that perspective more often, the game, your life, and everything will be so much better.
I have a quick follow up on that. I think that's amazing advice. Like, honestly, one of the best pieces of advice I think we've ever heard.
Easily.
But one of the things, so operating in fear, or just even going with a fear, right? It adds the stressor, right? I'm not going to say it adds stress, but it adds a stressor, and that makes you have to now operate and function and perform under a stress, which takes away the fun a lot of times, and also sometimes removes you from the game. Like, I talk to a lot of parents who have young kids who are like, oh, I don't want my kid to play this anymore because I play professional basketball. And now they're saying like, oh, I have to beat this team. I have to keep practicing. And it's adding stress to them. Like, they're choosing that because they're operating out of, I have to beat this team. I have to be as good as my dad, right? It's not that. And if you pluck them out of that sport and put them into esports, for example, right, there's still going to be some kind of stress if they operate in fear. So it's that. And then this goes back to the coping strategies, right? So what coping strategies do you build so that they know, hey, I feel myself operating in fear. What do I do now, right? And how do you go about that versus you can't continue to operate like this because it's adding stressors to your life?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you hit it on the head. Like, one thing I do with my own son, my son he's 6 years old. So, like, let's take it with a grain of salt, but he's pretty good out there, right? And I'm very aware of the expectations that are placed upon him. Whether anybody puts them on him, which is probably not as less likely as him putting on himself, right? And so I'm super aware of that. And whatever I do, I try to make it a fun learning environment, right? This is just a game, and everything is bigger. So everything is just always bigger than the game. And that's what I try and teach. And the fear will come from what your expectations are of yourself, right?
Yes.
So I think that you're nailing it. Is when we operate out of fear, it'll pour into our game. It'll pour into the way we treat people. It'll pour into the way we treat our wife, because we're scared of losing something. We're scared of losing who we are. We're afraid of being alone. We're afraid of nobody will be around us. We're afraid nobody can hear us. Whatever that is, there's fear that drives us. And I don't care what athlete it is, whether it's LeBron James or it's the 26th man on the worst team in baseball. Like, both of them have fear and they operate. Now, the way they handle it is completely different, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're aware of that fear and you can speak the truth and what's going on in your life, and write it down, put it out there. What am I afraid of? Why am I afraid of this? When did this first start? And address it, man, the power's in your hands.
Yeah, man, I love that.
Amazing.
This whole entire interview is just like a full-on resource for anybody who's gonna try to make it into the next stages in professional baseball or whatever. And Steven, we can't thank you enough for joining us. I mean, this has been one of the most incredible interviews that we've done, and we'll definitely make sure to plug Base by Pros. Everybody, if you're in the Linwood, Washington area, be sure to check them out. But yeah, we're just wishing you nothing but success here.
Hey, I appreciate it. It was easy to talk to you guys, so thanks for pulling the good questions out of me.
Yeah,
Thank
of
you.
course.